Geeks and geekettes, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, comic book fans the world over, welcome back to Ask Chuck Dixon, where you get to ask me, Chuck Dixon, about what I do for a living. What I do for a living is I write comic books. Let's get right to it. Let's not waste another second. First name, last name. As someone who's lived in Texas for several years, I must ask, might we be seeing Buc-ee's or a store that's an homage to it possibly appear in the Rippaverse locales of Florist Spark or Shadow Valley at some point in the foreseeable future? I find it rather enjoyable, and I believe a lot of my fellow Texas residents would as well. Have you ever been to Buc-ee's? Well, you haven't lived. I know they're all over Texas. There's a few here in Florida, and they're building another one about 45 minutes north of me. I visited one in Georgia a few months back for the first time, and my first time at Buc-ee's is always memorable. Buc-ee's is an American institution. There's no other country in the world would have a store like Buc-ee's. Imagine a convenience store half the size of a Walmart. Imagine a gas station with not dozens of gas pumps, but hundreds of gas pumps. Imagine a wall of jerky, a wall of trail mix. Imagine 24-hour barbecue prepared right in front of your eyes. This place is amazing. It really is. It's a kind of a it's American exceptionalism. You might see it as wretched excess. I don't know. It depends on your viewpoint. But it is a happy place, and everybody in there is happy. The customers are happy. I go in, and there's customers coming up to me going, me, a total stranger, and saying, "You believe this place?" Even the employees like really, really happy. So it must be a hell of a place to work. They even post their hourly wages on the wall. They're so proud of their business model and so proud of their employees. And it's the 4th of July every day at Buc-ee's. Just super, super happy place. Super patriotic. There's your wall of jerky. I mean, just whoa. What can I say? Now, will there be a version of Buc-ee's in the Rippaverse? Yes, I've already established it in an upcoming project. That's the beauty of creating worlds, universe building, and all the rest of it. Is you have a lot of fun creating things analogous to what we're used to. I'll give you a little preview here. The Rippaverse version of Buc-ee's is called Froggies, and like I say, it's upcoming. And a project I can't name. I know all the art's done, and we're well into production on the second part of it. But I will say no more. This is the logo that I cobbled together with my limited graphic design skills to put in the script to give the artist an idea what I thought the logo should look like. And so I don't know what the finished logo will look like, but I certainly want a t-shirt with this on it. I've asked Eric, I said, all these businesses that I'm creating, I really think we could make t-shirts of them. It'd be a lot of fun, particularly a fast food restaurant that appears in The Horseman upcoming. And Eric agrees. It would be a lot of fun to have these phony businesses and try to explain them to normies. What's that logo from? It's from another world. So yeah, there will be a Buc-ee's in the Rippaverse. It'll be Froggies. Joshua Ignatowski, other than A Bullet for Bullock and the episodes where Bane makes an appearance, what would you say are your favorite episodes of Batman the Animated Series? Well, I agree with almost everybody who's a fan of this series that Almost Got Him is the best episode of the series. If you've never seen it, you really should. As you can see here, a number of Batman's recurring foes from his rogues gallery have a poker night, and they talk about what else? Batman, while they're playing cards, and they review some of their recent capers. It's the funniest of all of the series, and I think the best. It's the seamless 30-minute animated episode in a series that is uniformly excellent. This episode really is a standout. Twin spin for Joshua, as he's become accustomed to. What would you say is your favorite episode of Superman the Animated Series? I would have to say the two-parter Apocalypse Now, in which I don't mean to spoil anything for anybody, but Dan Terrible Turpin, a cop character created by Jack Kirby, dies. He's killed by Darkseid. Darkseid turns his Omega beam on Turpin. When Turpin is leading the citizens of Metropolis to resist the denizens of Apocalypse who have invaded their city. And the runners of the show decided that a terrific homage would be to base Terrible Turpin on Jack Kirby himself. And as you can see, it looks very much like Kirby, talks like Kirby, and which made it even sadder because at the end of the episode, I remember watching it when it first aired on Saturday morning, and I'm watching it with my kids, and they're wondering why Dad's tearing up at the end because it's basically Jack Kirby's funeral, animated, and very very sad, and all of the regular Superman characters are there for the funeral. A few cameos. You see Stan Lee in the background there if you're watching this, and I teared up even more when they had a title card at the end of the episode. They dedicated the episode to Jack Kirby. So, triple spin from Joshua, not to spoil him. Do you have any thoughts on how, around 2007, Black Canary and Oliver Queen got married in the comics? I didn't know they got married, which is sad. But that's just a sign of the lessening impact that comics have on our culture. Yeah, I didn't know. And not to dismiss your question, but frankly, who cares? Because they keep, throwing out continuity. They keep rebooting and rejiggering and discarding and erasing continuity. So are they even married at this point? Is that still a thing? Or maybe in today's continuity they were never married. Maybe they've never met. I mean, who knows? Used to be when an event like this happened, you figured it's going to be somewhat permanent, but nothing's permanent anymore. And the problem is when anything can happen in a story, who cares? I mean, they're not even trying to keep us and engage us. And also, if I were advising Dinah, I would have said, you can't marry this guy. You know his history. You know he ain't sticking around. He's a player. He's a louse. So there you go. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it doesn't make any difference, does it? Unchained 1488. I tend to envision Lou Dollinger as a 90s era Gary Busey. Lou Dollinger, by the way, is a recurring character in the Levon Cade novels. A former Alabama deputy sheriff. Anyway, I tend to envision Lou Dollinger as a 90s era Gary Busey, 1991 Gary Busey from Point Break, most specifically. Of course, with more pale skin, similar to Busey's skin tone in Lethal Weapon, as Mr. Joshua. That's how I see him when I'm reading. And I've read every Levon Cade book, while currently on book 3 of Bad Times. Thank you, sir or madam. I don't know what Unchained 1488 refers to. I believe Lou Busey Dollinger is the best character in the series, a better character than Levon even. I think Levon Cade is awesome. Give Lou Dollinger a spinoff where he's the protagonist. Yeah, Lou Dollinger shows up in the three most recent Levon Cade novels: Levon's Prey, Levon's Range, and Levon's Scourge. And I really put him through the ringer because, even though he's an interesting character, he's an odious character with that's a lot of what makes him interesting. He's very conflicted. Well, he's not conflicted, but you'll be conflicted about him when you read him, because it's like, wow, I don't like this guy. But as a writer, I liked him. By that, I mean, I wouldn't want to take a long car ride with him or have him as a next door neighbor. But I liked him as a writer because he was interesting. He was multifaceted, and he sort of defied conventional wisdom. Lou Dollinger is like I said, he's not a nice guy. He's an unreconstructed bigot, and be perfectly played by Gary Busey. but he's also he's also intelligent and ruthless. And over the course of these 3 books, we see that he's quite the detective. Um, and I just sort of fell in love with the character. Initially, I was going to have Levon kill him. I was setting him up as someone for you to hate and for Levon to kill. And you go, yay, he's dead. But then I couldn't do it. I could not virtually pull the trigger on him. And my proofreader and nitpicker in chief, Michael Hutchison, said, well, thank God you didn't kill that character, because he's really, really fascinating. And so I thought, okay, maybe I'm on the right track here. They always advise you, I forget what famous writer said that, to kill your darlings. Basically, don't get too attached to anything when you're writing. And that's good advice, but not all the time. And I'm glad I kept Lou Dollinger around, because he plays a big part in the next 2 books. And I really put him through some crap. I mean, every once in a while, you create a character that gets away from you, really takes on a life of their own, and you really can't knock them off because there's more story. There's so much more I can do with this guy. I can't imagine writing a spinoff of him, because he really isn't a nice guy. Lou is very much a Jim Thompson type character, where he's interesting and you can somewhat relate to him and you really want to see what he does next, but he's not a nice guy. Jim Thompson wrote about, con men and swindlers and killers, and they were his main characters, not nice people. And he didn't expect you to ever like them, and that's Lou Dollinger to a T. He's very much in the Jim Thompson mold of a guy you wouldn't want to have showing up for Thanksgiving dinner. Hey, are you subscribed? Maybe you only think you're subscribed. YouTube has been unsubscribing subscribers on me, which I'm seeing my numbers go down instead of up. And that's not the direction I want them to go in. So if you're subscribed or think you're subscribed, go double check, because if I can't grow my numbers, I at least want to hold on to the ones I have in my desperate bid to keep as many of you on the subscription list as possible, so you keep hearing about these videos. Robert Hodgkin. So I grabbed a Kindle edition of the first book in your SEAL Team 6 series after buying the Kindle edition to SEAL Team 6 Book 1. I noticed the second book in that series is not available as a Kindle edition. You can only get it if you buy a Kindle pack of the first several books in the series. I would prefer not to rebuy Book 1. I noticed all the other books in your SEAL Team 6 series are available individually as Kindle editions. Any idea what is up with SEAL Team 6 Book 2? No, I don't know. I don't have any contact with this publisher anymore, quite frankly, because I don't see any royalties. I don't see any of the promised royalties. I kind of look back on this period as I wrote 6 novels and basically taught myself how to write a novel. And by the end of it, I was like, well, I'm going to do this for myself rather than make money for somebody else. And, went off to do Bad Times and Levon Cade and the other stuff I've written. Is this just negligence or a nefarious ploy to get you to buy number 1 again? I don't know. I really don't know. And I don't see it changing because they've kind of gone asleep at the switch on this series. It still sells, but it doesn't sell anywhere near the numbers it was selling at the beginning. When I first started writing these SEAL Team books, the ebook gold rush was still on, and these things sold really, really, really well. As someone at the publisher mistakenly told me, they weren't supposed to tell me. They weren't supposed to tell me how well the books were doing, and they did. And I asked for, where are my royalties, and the relationship deteriorated from there. But these sold really well. But probably, looking back, they probably sold more than my Levon Cade series has sold. My Levon Cade series has done very well, but the SEAL Team 6 books were just at that right time. Everybody was talking about SEAL Team stuff, and it was hotter than hot. It was so hot that in this particular book, I wanted to end the book with Gaddafi being assassinated, Muammar Gaddafi being assassinated. most of the action in the book takes place in Benghazi, Libya. But unfortunately for me, Gaddafi wasn't dead yet. But I just thought, this guy's days are numbered for a variety of reasons. This guy's, his sell-by date is months old. He's going to be gone soon. And so I wrote the novel planning to end it with Gaddafi's assassination. And I just thought, well, I know he's not assassinated yet, but it's going to be soon. And by the time I was at the point of like maybe 2 days before I was going to write the scene where Gaddafi gets assassinated, he was assassinated. And I took what little scant details I could from the news reports and told my own version of Gaddafi's demise. So I was kind of proud because of this particular SEAL team book, because I predicted a world event, before it happened. I was sort of reading the tea leaves. I'm no geopolitical genius or anything else, but you read about this stuff and the different relationships between countries. It's not hard to figure out what might be coming next. It doesn't really take a genius if you know human nature and the rest of it. But I was way ahead of all the media in saying that Gaddafi is going to be dead soon. And consequently, this is the first fictionalized version of those events to appear, because this book came out within 60 days of Gaddafi's death. So, it might have looked like I just wrote the book in a big hurry, but it was just, synergy or synchronicity or something that brought me in line with world events. What can I say? Sean Danker, I was wondering, what are your thoughts on Jeff Johns' attempt to explain the Joker via 3 Jokers? Do you think Jason Todd should have stayed dead? Yeah, I mean, I think that I didn't know Jeff Johns, that was a Jeff Johns thing. Not that it makes any difference. I think Johns, DC was kind of weird at that point. DC's always been weird, but it was really weird in that era, recent era. And they were looking for high concept ideas that would, go virtual. That get people talking on the internet, as if getting people talking on the internet was the business model. No, it's selling comic books is the business model. And they I don't think they ever figured out how to connect those two. It's a gimmick. It's a stunt. And I don't think I think Johns just wanted to get an assignment, basically. And he was willing to pitch something that he normally wouldn't, 8 years before he would never have pitched this. But given the nitwits running the company at the time, it was like, well, you got to sell stupid stuff to stupid people. So he comes up with the 3 Jokers idea, which is a terrible idea. It's an absolutely terrible idea. One of the greatest things about the Joker, when I first started writing Batman comics, I didn't know, how do you get a handle on the Joker? You don't want to write a bad Joker story, because everybody will remember a bad Joker story. You can write a bad Kite Man story, and it's forgotten within weeks. You write a bad Joker story, and you've just hung an albatross around your neck. So I talked about this with Scott Peterson. I said, I need a handle on the Joker. And Scott said, well, he reinvents himself every day. I thought, well, okay, there you go. There you go. He doesn't have to be consistent. In fact, anarchy and chaos are his best friends, and inconsistency is a great thing. And I don't know where it came along, but all the writers seem to lean toward this idea that when the Joker told his origin, it was always different. And he would retell his origin and make this new version of it according to who he was telling it to. And I really like that idea, that we would never know the Joker's real, true origin, because he just lie about it all the time. And to produce 3 Jokers to explain the difference, I guess, to explain the difference in the origins, really takes a lot away from the character. It takes away that aspect of it that so many other writers had done so much good work in. The Joker's, the fantabulous tales of his beginnings. And also, sort of, for the Joker only, that works. I mean, the recent Joker movie, which takes an entirely different take on the Joker, I wouldn't want to see for another character. I wouldn't want to see another character done in that way. But for the Joker, it works. You can imagine that movie as a story told by the Joker. And to do 3 Jokers, I don't know. It don't work. Is what I'm trying to say in a nutshell. As far as Jason Todd, yeah, he should have stayed dead, but they can't resist. They go back to, they can't leave anything alone. They can't make anything permanent. Much like Ollie and Dinah's marriage. I mean, they're probably divorced already, or maybe they never were married because they've erased that continuity. I think Jason Todd should have stayed dead. The fans sure wanted him to stay dead. He's a failed character. As I said with Lou Dollinger, sometimes characters get away from you, and sometimes they get away from you for the good, and sometimes they get away from you for the bad. And Denny O'Neil admitted to me that Jason Todd was a character that got away from them for the bad. And even when they tried to reboot him and reintroduce him and sort of fix what they thought the fans didn't like about his character, they still didn't like him. And he had to go. And I think he should have stayed gone. And, I haven't seen anything in recent comics to make me change my mind about that. Christopher R. Taylor, have you been trying? I have been trying to get a Golden Age Superman omnibus for years now, and it's as rare as one of those 60s paperback books you recommend. DC would sell these things if they were reprinted. Why do you think they don't put any more out? Are they trying to throw speculators a bone? Is someone at DC collecting them and trying to drive up the price? How could it possibly hurt the company to make their best stuff more available? Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, there's certain things. Why not keep them in print? And if you know anything about current printing, it used to be prohibitive to have a short run of a book. And it's simply not anymore. The places where these things are printed, Malaysia, Singapore, Korea, China, they want to keep those presses running 24/7. I mean, literally, presses never stop. They're always looking for things to put on the presses. And they have salesmen who, will just, jump in your face, put their foot in your door and not leave to try to sell you some of their press time, and they'll make all kinds of deals. And if you've got now I know DC's bookend, they're run by Random House, not run by DC anymore. Or at least I assume that's still the business model. So you would go, okay, you're gonna give me X amount of press time, X amount of paper, blah 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 for this amount. Yeah, let's run off another 3,000 Superman omnibuses. But that's just not the way it works. They don't seem to think about money. It's like I said in my previous answer. There's more interest in going virtual or going viral than they are actually selling books. And this is true for a long time. When I was at DC Comics in the 90s, I often experienced or encountered editors who seemed embarrassed by the fact that DC Comics was a business, that they were in the business to make money. They were in the business to sell more books. Now, as a writer, as a creator, I was interested in selling more books. You want to have a bigger audience, not because, my stuff is so worthwhile and I've got such a huge ego that I think the whole world should read my work. No, I want to sell more books so that I can write more books. I want to sell more books to justify my phony baloney job, because the more books I sell and the more successful my work is, the more I'll get to do it. And that's really all I care about, is sitting here in this room that I'm talking to you from, making stuff up. And I want to see my publishers be highly successful and make wads and wads of cash, so they'll keep paying me to do what I love to do. And a lot of DC editors that I met were, they would talk about cash grabs. We're making a cash grab from the fans. I'm like, you're not making a cash grab from the fans. You're producing something that will entertain and amuse them. you're producing something they'll want. It's not, they're not addicts. They can not buy it if they don't want it. And if we produce crap, which DC Comics has demonstrated over the years, if you produce crap, poorly produced, poorly crafted comics, the readers will go, we don't want them. So you're not making any kind of crash grab. So I guess those people are happy. Okay, we're a failure as a business. It's like, we're running like a non-profit now because we ain't making no profit. We're not selling enough books to actually make any money. In fact, we're making so little money, we don't even have offices anymore. They couldn't afford to, literally, Warner has decided that it wasn't worth the expenditure to keep the lights on. So, what are you going to do? So yeah, you're going to have to pay, unless they reprint it someday, which I very much doubt, because they seem to reprint it. And I buy all the Batman Golden Age omnibuses, and I started buying the Superman Silver Age omnibuses because I love that stuff. But I buy it as soon as it comes out because I know once it goes out of print, I'm going to pay 3 times the amount for it. But the thing is, as they do these projects, these lines of books, they just move on. They just move on to something else. And 5 years from now, they may start Golden Age Superman over again in a different format, different trade dress and everything else, as if, they just reinvented the wheel. So I don't know. I feel your pain as a consumer of comics. Why isn't this stuff just always in print? Why would some of this stuff ever go out of print? At early and often 3951, Dirty Harry would walk away and let the guy do his thing. Have you ever heard the movie Magnum Force? This is a reference to my proposed Dirty Harry Batman crossover, which I pitched in the 90s to DC Comics, which almost got done until Clint Eastwood heard about it. And in my description, in a recent episode, somebody said, what if he met the Punisher? And I'm like, I don't see where Dirty Harry and the Punisher would have much to argue about. Whereas Dirty Harry and Batman would. Batman would definitely object to Dirty Harry's methods. I don't see that Dirty Harry would have a lot to object to with meeting Frank Castle. Why would he want to stop the Punisher from offing criminals? Unless you did the highly cliched story of the Punisher accidentally kills an innocent and Dirty Harry intercedes. It would be interesting, a Punisher Dirty Harry set in San Francisco, with the two of them teaming up against somebody particularly odious. But I have seen Magnum Force, and I don't like Magnum Force. I saw Magnum Force when it came out. I saw it, I think, opening day. Much anticipated sequel to Dirty Harry. Dirty Harry's a movie I really, really like. I watch Dirty Harry once a year without fail, and saw it many, many times in the theater. Sort of followed the movie around as it went into second and third release. And to me, Magnum Force reverses everything that the first movie established. Is that Harry Callahan is pretty much a vigilante with a badge. He's working within the rules as much as he can, but the first movie establishes that he's bumping up against authority quite a bit. He has no compunction about using lethality and even torture to seek justice as he sees it. And then in Magnum Force, we're presented with this group of vigilante cops who are going around, killing people who have escaped the law, who they're killing people. They're bringing justice by other means to criminals who have in their eyes cheated the system. And Dirty Harry goes up against them and thwarts their aims and basically takes them down like they're a bunch of criminals. And I just don't, and he takes them down with some degree of fervor. Like, I really got to bring these guys down. And it would have worked for me if he was like, I got to take these guys out because they're basically working my side of the street. I'm the guy that kills people. kills criminals without regard to Miranda rights or habeas corpus. Not you guys. I would have much preferred it if Harry had done a lot of detective work to uncover who these cops were, and then at the end of the film joined them. And I know that's kind of dark, but rewatch. You're asking me if I've seen Magnum Force. You need to rewatch Dirty Harry. That movie is real dark. Also, I didn't like in Magnum Force the idea that they tried to turn him into James Bond, where he's scoring with every woman he meets. I preferred the Dirty Harry who was desolate over the loss of his wife. The loner, leading an almost monk-like existence. Like, this is a guy who, when he's not at the police station, is at home getting 4 hours sleep and then coming right back to the police station. This guy has no life outside of what he does as a cop and what he does as a detective. I think Magnum Force has kind of flipped all that on its head. And then the rest of the Dirty Harry sequels, they grade from there. So you and I will have to agree to disagree. I don't see. I see Dirty Harry as canon. I don't see any of the sequels as canon. I think they totally miss the point of the first movie. And I think the first movie should have been, as much as I wanted to see more Dirty Harry, because I like the character, I wish they just left, like Indiana Jones, we should just left it alone with the first movie and just let us have that instead of, denigrating it, diluting it over the course of a number of sequels just for the cash. Okay, Sean Danker, something you said on you should have gotten a twin spin. Something you said on your newest episode made me come up with this question. You basically said you had no control or say over what happens to characters you created after you've left the related books. So this made me wonder, why is Neil Gaiman able to wield such control that no one can touch the endless? This, again, goes back to a subject I've talked about many times about what a weird company DC is. I don't know if Neil Gaiman has a deal on paper that no one can touch his creations, even though so many of his creations are based on already established, at least by name, DC characters. Or is it just a cult of personality thing? Who knows what backroom strange deals have been made at DC to ward off creators from touching characters. Last episode I talked about the Creeper and the Wrath, how we were not allowed to write those characters even though they belonged to DC Comics. We were specifically told you can never write those characters. They are untouchable. Well, who can write them? We can't tell you. And they just act like they don't even understand the question. Like, it's perfectly normal for a company that owns an enormous ensemble cast, hundreds and hundreds of licensed characters. If it's perfectly normal for a company to say, well, you can't use this one and this one, but we're not going to tell you why. And maybe that's the case with The Endless, with the Sandman cycle and all the rest of it. Maybe Neil has some sort of deal. I've said this before, and it still shocks people. I pitched something to DC in the early 2000s and was told that I couldn't do that because those characters were being held for Mark Miller. And I said, but Mark Miller's working for Marvel. And he said, yeah, but if he ever leaves. And of course, he never did write those characters that were on hold for DC. But that's just a weird, I don't get it either. I really don't. Okay, I got things out of order again here somehow. All right, I'm going to jump back. Here's the question. It was interesting to learn how you were influenced by Greatest American Hero when you wrote My Sister Suprema. It got me wondering if maybe there was similarly a bit of Bill Maxwell in Eddie Fires during your Green Arrow run with Connor Hawke. Both of them played similar mentor sidekick roles and were often used as Swiss Army knives to supply whatever the stories needed, ranging from humor to occasional wisdom to even sometimes saving the day. I know you didn't create Eddie. Mike Grell did that in Longbow Hunters, but Grell's Eddie was a simpler, more utilitarian character than the richer, more complex one he grew into during your run. Well, thank you. Thank you for those very kind words. Um, yeah, Eddie's a character that I inherited, and I liked him. I inherited him from Grell's run, and then the subsequent run by other. They had a number of other writers, including Kelly Puckett, a writer that I've gone on and on now about before how much I admire Kelly's writing, his prodigious talents at storytelling and character development. And I really liked Eddie, and he was a neat foil. And I knew that Oliver Queen was not long for this planet. Boy, Oliver Queen keeps coming up. Oliver Queen was not long for this planet, and Connor Hawke was going to take over the role as Green Arrow, and I very much wanted Eddie there as the mentor, sort of the grounding character. Connor Hawke, a little bit of a dreamer, a little bit of an outsider, a little bit of a fish out of water character, as he had grown up in a monastery and was now immersed in the modern world. Eddie would be his guide, and I really I dug the character a lot. And thank you for the kind words about further developing him. But that was my job. So I think I was given more reign to develop him because he and Ollie were friends and understood each other and everything else. So there was nothing to explore in their relationship. It was sort of set in stone by Mike Grell and the writers following, because that's just, it's a buddy thing. That's understandable. As I bring Eddie more center stage with Connor Hawke, we learn more about Eddie. We see more of Eddie in action, both physically and mentally, because he's imparting wisdom or guiding Connor, and they're building a relationship. And at the beginning of a relationship, you learn more about each other. In a fictional relationship that's being building, there's a lot of exposition, a lot of things we learn about the characters. Whereas if we have an established relationship from the past, that's kind of set. There's nothing to build on there. So, my job was to build there and get you more and more interested in Eddie. So, baboom. As far as Bill Maxwell, yeah, Eddie was kind of a Bill Maxwell character. Bill Maxwell is an FBI agent on Greatest American Hero. He was one of the 3 characters on the show who knew Ralph Hinckley's secret, that Ralph Hinckley, high school teacher, was also superhero. And I dug the Bill Maxwell character, and I appreciate, what you said was on the money. He was there to provide, like logistics from a legal standpoint. He was there as a humorous character. And I like the way he would interject his own worldview onto things. He was a straightforward, shoot first, ask questions later kind of guy, in contrast to Ralph Hinckley, who, wouldn't hurt a fly. And just a terrific, and Robert Culp just took the character and ran with it. Because often Bill Maxwell was an agent of chaos in the series. And then the sort of triangle of the character of the Connie Selica character, Ralph Hinckley's girlfriend, and Bill Maxwell, the conflict between the two for Ralph's attention was always great subplot stuff and fodder for stories. And maybe unconsciously there's a little bit of Bill Maxwell in Eddie Fires. Eddie Fires certainly serves the same role. Although Eddie Fires, I guess he was funny now and again. He never meant to be, but things he said were so outrageous. It would make you laugh. So that's it for me this week. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And remember, this episode was brought to you by Froggies. Froggies gas prices will make you smile, and they're worth driving that extra mile. So hopefully I will see all of you down the road, unless of course you stop at Buc-ee's first. Okay, that's it. See you next time.